Hey guys, it's Jack. I wanted to let you know that we're starting a new push for subscriptions here on Human Events Daily. So make sure that when you're listening to this podcast, you hit subscribe, you download it, and you share it with 5 of your friends. Make sure they're all going and downloading as well, because we need to get the signal out as much as possible. Look, we've done so much over the past couple of years since this show started, and we're only going to do so much more. Let's get it. This is what happens when the fourth turning meets fifth generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
Breaking moments ago, a man reportedly accused of threatening to kill Erica Kirk. He is under arrest in Texas, according to local media. Police reportedly saying he posted about a bombing at a Turning Point USA event where Kirk is scheduled to speak next week. TPUSA says the event will go on.
Former President Joe Biden is suing the Justice Department in an effort to keep hours of recordings tied to the classified documents investigation from becoming public. The lawsuit centers on interviews Biden gave in 2016 and 2017 to ghostwriter Mark Zwanitzer while working on his memoirs. Those recordings later became part of special counsel Robert Hur's investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents.
Blue Origin exploding. Take a look at your screen right now. This is the New Glenn rocket. It exploded during a hot fire test as refueling was happening ahead of a scheduled launch for tomorrow.
Officials at the Treasury Department are laying the groundwork for a new $250 bill featuring President Trump's image. A mock-up was first obtained by the Washington Post. It's meant to commemorate the nation's 250th anniversary and would be the first time a living person is featured on American currency in more than 150 years.
This morning, sources tell ABC News U.S. and Iranian negotiators are closing in on a short-term deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
They negotiate. They're very good negotiators. They're crafty. But in the end, we have all the cards.
President Trump saying he is heading into the Situation Room for a meeting on this potential Iran deal. I'm going to read the Post to you here, so bear with me. He says Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. The Hormuz Strait must be immediately open. No tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions.
Well, I think it's hard to say exactly when or if the president's going to sign the MOU. We're going back and forth on a couple of language points. I do think that we've made a lot of progress here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily here live on Real America's Voice. Today is May 29th, 2026. Anno Domini. All right, so following yesterday, you guys saw I was at the White House, spoke with Secretary Bessent. A lot to come out of that regarding the Iran deal and regarding the Iran situation. The president, we were told while I was at the White House, of course, had the agreement on his desk and had not yet signed off on it. Of course, the news that we got earlier today was that the president is in the Situation Room, and the president is currently looking over the document. He posted this earlier today. I want to read his Truth Social post for you. And this is, of course, from the president directly. Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. The Hormuz Strait must be immediately open. No tolls for unrestricted shipping. Traffic in both directions. All water mines, bombs, if any, will be terminated. We have removed through detonation numerous such mines with our great underwater mine sweepers. Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left, which will not be many. Ships caught in the strait due to our amazing and unprecedented naval blockade will now be lifted. May start the process of heading home. Say hello to your wives, husbands, parents, and families from me, your favorite president. The enriched material, sometimes referred to as the nuclear dust. Remember, this is the no dust, no dollars phase of the agreement, which is buried deep underground with virtually collapsed mountains caused by our powerful B-2 bomber attack 11 months ago. Sitting on top of it will be unearthed by the United States, which, it is agreed, is the only country, along with China, with the mechanical capability of doing so in coordination and conjunction with the Islamic Republic of Iran, plus the International Atomic Energy Agency, and destroyed. No money will be exchanged until further notice. Other items of far less importance have been agreed to. I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So there's so much here. This is such a packed and layered statement. And if you've been paying attention to Human Events Daily all this week and in the about 90 days since Operation Epic Fury began, you are on top of every piece of this. We were the first to call for a naval blockade. We called out and said that the Kharg Island invasion plan that Lindsey Graham and all those guys were pushing was crazy. It was stupid. It was way too close to Iran. Remember, Kharg Island is closer to Iran than Catalina Island is to California. And we were the ones who said, if you want to put the economic pressure on Iran, Operation Economic Fury. Operation Economic Fury is the naval blockade. Use Navy power. We've been talking about that since day one. Now, here's a key point. Not just the nuclear dust, but how will it be extracted if so? Boom. What did the president just mention there? The United States is the only country, along with China, with the mechanical capability of doing so. And what have I told you all along? The whole point of the meeting with China was about understanding the new reshaped agreement and relationship with China. President Trump called it the G2. That means he discussed this with China. This is something that they were discussing behind closed doors when he was in Beijing. They were discussing this and talking about even the nitty gritty of could this be a joint operation, U.S. China. Remember, it was China that came into Syria and took the chemical weapons stockpiles out. Was that 2013 or so under Obama? That was China who came in. So they have a history of this. Now with nuclear, with the highly enriched uranium, is it possible that the U.S. and China could be working together behind the scenes and potentially even on the ground in Iran? Fordo Natanz, only time will tell. But I'm telling you, folks, we're getting very close. Right back, Human Events Daily. So much to talk about.
Our wave and our golden age has just begun.
This is Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
Now it's time for everyone to understand what America First truly means. Welcome to the Second American Revolution.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec back live, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. We're here on the program. And I wanted to share with everyone, actually, so we just read the president's post here, and we see the president is now back on Truth Social. He might be in the meeting, it might be during the meeting, or it might be perhaps a staffer is posting some retweets, some posts up on his Truth Social page. But something very interesting that President Trump just retweeted that I want to give everyone some attention to. It's a post by Newt Gingrich. And listen to this. After spending this week reviewing the Iran war, I'm now convinced President Trump is on the edge of a historic victory. The real breakthrough for me came as I reviewed President Trump's decisions and maneuvers not from the standpoint of American unilateralism, but the standpoint of the leader of a remarkable historic coalition, the largest coalition ever put together in the Middle East. Gingrich says that everyone understands Israel is an important ally, but what is little discussed is the depth of support from the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and other countries in the region. It has to be sobering for the Iranian dictatorship to realize that it does not have a single ally willing to challenge the American naval blockade. Again, the importance of the blockade. Slowly, gradually, timidly, our European allies are lining up to help with the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. A great deal of President Trump's maneuvers against Iran make sense once he is seen as a coalition leader and not just a unilateral American president. Spent a lot of the last couple of weeks reviewing kinetic options, including winning the battle of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, if necessary, using the shocking and shattering level of force President Nixon and Secretary Kissinger used against Hanoi and Haiphong in Christmas 1972, which both leaders convinced the North Vietnamese to agree to a truce and the freeing of American POWs. If this were a unilateral American campaign, I would support or could support a more aggressive kinetic campaign. However, it's also clear that it would shatter the coalition because our Arab allies are convinced Iran could still do enormous damage to their oil fields and infrastructure. Coalitions are inherently slower than unilateral campaigns. However, coalitions bring more power to the fight. I'm frustrated by everyone of the pace of talking with the dictatorship, have reviewed the correlation of forces and the options available to the coalition on one side and Iran religiously motivated dictatorship on the other. I'm prepared to assert that President Trump's coalition leadership, something which none of his critics want to acknowledge, is within reach of an historic, enormous victory. And if the Iranian dictatorship ultimately proves it is hopelessly committed to a suicidal position, there's plenty of time for a kinetic campaign of enormous power and effectiveness. Either way, we are on the edge of an astonishing victory. That is remarkable, hearing the president, or hearing that from Newt Gingrich, the former speaker, and then, of course, seeing the repost of that by President Trump. And I know that the White House is sharing that around. So this is a whole different way of looking at the conflict, in a sense where I've talked about the rise of multipolarity. We've seen that from the Iranian side. The Russians talk about this. The Chinese talk about this. But what the White House is now pointing out, what the president is sharing there in Newt Gingrich's statement, is that he has a coalition too, is that he has partners. America has partners. America has allies. America has our own partnerships and friendships within the region. And to view President Trump as a coalitional leader rather than a unilateral, obviously he's the leader of the party, but he's, the country and the party, of course, but also the leader of this coalition. I want to bring in our next guest here. We've got Alex Abkarian from Allegiance Gold to bring on this. Alex, you know, you've been looking at this. You've been looking at financial markets. You've been obviously studying the role of gold in this and the role of precious metals as well as the U.S. dollar. When the president is talking about this in terms of a coalition, is he kind of using that to respond to some of what we've seen of the rise of the BRICS nations, the rise of multipolarity from their corner?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jack. Look,
of course,
he is one of the single individuals that has been negotiating deals through economic involvement. In other words, it's creating a win-win situation. Now, Nixon did the petrodollar. So what President Trump is doing, he's trying to fortify and strengthen the coalition, because at the end of the day, the G7, majority of their economy is based on oil export. And they realized that that single country, Iran, put a chokehold on their operation and impacted their bottom line. So what we've seen is, let it be the Abraham Accord, let it be the other coalition, the fact that he's bringing people together so that way we have economical deals, protecting the dollar's long-term reserve status is something very important to our country, and is also communicating to China that, hey, why there is this bipolar movement, specifically where China's trying to control the eastern side. We also want to have the middle of the chessboard, specifically in Middle East, have control over that and be able to benefit our partners as well.
So, and this is absolutely key, because the president, of course, when he's flexing this, one of the biggest pieces, and I keep coming back to it, this even before I even had you on, and this was not, part of ad copy or something, was pointing out that those tolls, remember, the tolls that Iran was taking, Alex, were those being taken in U.S. dollars?
Well, look, what did Iran say? They wanted it for that to be in the Chinese yuan. They wouldn't be able to utter that without having the backing of China. See, what I love about what President Trump has done is you have to go back and look at the sequential steps. The fact that we're very close in having some sort of a deal is after the China meeting. There has been some sort of a discussion behind closed doors to finalize that. Now, what's important is this. On one side of the equation, we're seeing that the oil prices are down about 2%. And on the other hand, we're seeing that gold is up. We know that the world cannot go longer with higher oil prices. So essentially, eventually, we're going to see lower oil prices. That's going to bring down inflation. And by the way, for all the pundits talking about that inflation is out of control, it's going up 3%. Look, it is driven by supply side of the equation. It is driven by high oil prices that are trickling down on transportation, on food, so on and so forth. It's not going to last for a long period of time. That's why it's important for us to have a good deal. On one hand, what we were going to expect is that gold is positioned very well because it's been trading sideways. And historically, Jack, every time we had some sort of a war in Middle East, specifically to countries that are rich in oil, we see the same playbook. Oil goes up, gold goes down a bit, and then it follows. Specifically, we do expect gold prices to go up. So for the listeners, I want to lean in and I want to tell them the importance of buying this dip, buying the opportunity in gold and silver, because in the background, the government is actually positioning and getting involved in gold. How? They recently had a bipartisan agreement, the Silver Act. They realized that there's a concentration in our precious metals in New York. They want to diversify that in Wyoming and other places. President Trump echoed that he wants to audit Fort Knox again. And at the same time, what we're seeing is the Department of War investing in the SMELT project. What that is they're putting $2 billion to control critical minerals. This is one way to fight against China, to make sure that they don't have a monopoly on processing and refining critical metals.
Well, and that's what this is all about, because what we're seeing here is a huge question. And look, for me coming in it as a Navy officer, this is something that we study every single day from sun up to sundown. We study the flow of these critical supplies all across the world's oceans, and what Iran has reminded everyone of, but then the United States responded back with that naval blockade, is that it is all about the power of the sea and the influence of sea power, not just on world markets, but on world economies and on great powers and great countries. Yes, the influence of sea power can be felt by every single person on the planet as it is right now.
And it's crucial for us because if you study history, and you know this, Great Britain lost its influence on the world when they lost control of their naval and they started losing power. That trickled down on their currency and eventually their economy. This is crucial for us. We got to protect the value of the dollar, and this is exactly what President Trump is doing. Yes, we are losing buying power because the debt is increasing and we are paying higher interest rates. And obviously with the new Fed chair, the expectation is to potentially lower the interest rates and minimize the bleeding from that side of the equation. But long term, this is going to be benefit. This is why in the meantime, what you want to do is you don't want to have your wealth be collateral damage, and you ought to consider diversifying a portion of it. Maybe roll over your 401k IRA into physical gold and silver, so that way you have that layer of protection.
And it's so key because as we see this, and look, certainly I'm someone who hopes that President's able to get to a deal today. I hope that the Iranian offer is something that's substantial, and I hope that the president is able to sign that. That being said, of course, I haven't seen the actual document. And what I do know is that because of the nature of where Iran's government is, the top two layers have gone. They're at layer 3 now. And the supreme leader is kept under, lock and key because he's worried about the assassination threat against him. So if President Trump wants to change just a single word of this thing, that could mean another couple days of instability. And what have we seen in those days of instability? We've seen drone strikes. We've seen ballistic missile launches. We've seen boats potentially having these mines go out, these mine layers on there. So there's elements within the IRGC and others. And what is this that are making their actions? What is this all doing? It's adding to the instability of the situation. And so while we're at this precarious moment and peace is literally on the table, there are still so many things that can happen. That's why the tension right now is higher than ever. But make sure you stay locked in to Human Events Daily, because we will get you through it here on Real America's Voice. Right back.
You talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, who's done a great job.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec back. Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. President Trump, as far as we know, still in the meeting. He's behind closed doors in the Situation Room. World peace potentially on the table, but president knows he is not going to make that deal if it's not the right deal. 31 minutes ago, an Iranian official came out and said that an agreement with the United States has not yet been finalized. We know that Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, is meeting with Pakistani officials as President Trump says the final determination is about to be made. So he's been in that meeting for about 3 hours now. We're on with Alex Zakarian, founder and COO of Allegiance Gold. And Alex, as we walk through, you were talking about in the last segment there, the supply side of this, the influence of sea power, something that, is I've spent so much time on, that we also, when we're looking at the economy, what does it mean for the average American? What does all this geopolitics mean? One of the other pieces of this, of course, that people are looking at is the new Fed chair. And I was with the Secretary of Treasury yesterday. He was asked about it, about Kevin Warsh now leaving the Fed. What does it mean, or just the last couple of days, his early moves? What are the indications that you see, or do you see any indications that he is going to make any moves on interest rates?
I believe he will, because he understands two things. Number one, he doesn't want to blow up the balance sheet. In other words, he doesn't want to print a lot, which is going to help inflation. But at the same time, he understands the magnitude of the problem. And the problem we have is that the debt is growing. We're running a deficit. And in order for us to strengthen the economy and create more jobs and growth, on one side, AI is going to help out with the productivity. Okay, so he's looking forward. We're not just looking backwards. But more importantly, I think at some point he will lower the interest rates. This is exactly what President Trump has talked about. We have an affordability problem, Jack. There was a survey recently that 57% of people that are earning $100,000 or more, six figures, are having problem buying food. They think the cost is high. Now, why is that? Because property taxes are going up, insurance premiums are going up, price of gas is going up, but the wages have not grown as much as it should have. Previously, before the war, we saw that the wages were increasing faster than inflation. I believe once the dust settles, once gas prices go down, and the Federal Reserve starts lowering interest rates, that's going to help the economy on one side, and it will create a super cycle for physical precious metals. Why? Because when interest rates drop, it's going to help people that are borrowing. It's going to help the government lower the interest expense. It's going to help the mortgage interest rates. It's going to help the credit cards, and it's going to trickle down to people's pockets. But at the same time, the value of money is going to get weaker, and the banks are going to start paying you less. So the opportunity cost in investing in gold becomes far less, which is why central banks, large institutions are going towards gold. And this is one of the opportunities that I want people to understand, that you could take advantage of this growth potential and have a portion of your assets, whether it's money in the bank or savings account or even some sort of 401k and IRA, roll a portion of it in physical gold and silver.
This is so interesting you mentioned that, because not just central banks, but one of the things that I've been looking out lately is Poland and the Polish National Bank. They're stockpiling gold right now. And I was just looking up the numbers. Their target, I don't think they've reached it yet, but they're trying to become one of the top 10 countries to hit that elite tier with the top 10 largest gold reserves in the entire world. And they're currently buying about 150 more tons, and their goal is 700 tons of gold. And so, look, Poland's not going to be doing that if they don't see a reason to do that. It's really simple.
Absolutely. And here's the good thing about Poland. Poland's economy is growing. Their central banks, about 2 years ago, they said, our target is to bring it up to 15%. Then they brought it up to 20%. Then now their new target is 30%. What they wanted to communicate is this, that we want the world to do business with the Poland because we have improved the quality of our reserves. We want the investors to have confidence in our currency, in our economy. And this is a reason why we're backing a portion of our assets with physical gold and silver. Why? Because A, you cannot duplicate it. B, you're in control. It is not exposed. You're not buying someone else's liability. So from a risk basis, you eliminate what's called a counterparty risk. Look, if your money is dependent on someone else's opinion, like stocks or bonds or any other asset, you can't have all of it in that. So what's the idea of gold and silver? It's that preservation protection, but at the same time, it has appreciated and it's performing a lot better than your bonds, and it's sometimes even competing with stocks. So the message that I want people to understand is that gold is no longer this old relic that just collects dust. It is very strategic. Not only is it diversifying, but actually it is improving and enhancing returns. Now, let me take it one layer down. It's not about just the central banks. You have corporate companies that now, instead of putting money in U.S. treasuries, cash, they're buying gold and silver. And their intention is, we want to have stockpile of this strategic reserve because A, we're going to need it, and B, we see the benefit of having proper diversification because gold is a tier 1 reserve asset. It's the highest quality and liquid assets.
Well, look, and I'll just throw it out there for folks. We have protectwithposo.com where people can go and get more information on this. But Alex, let's say folks go to protectwithposo.com. What is the next step? How do you help people, the average person out there, say, all right, I've heard about this. I've heard Poland's doing it. I see what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. How can I get involved?
Very simple. Either go to protectwithposo.com or call us directly at 844-790-9191. That's 844-790-9191. Speak with one of our specialists. By the way, here's what we're doing. If you invest more than $50,000, in addition to the promotional medal, we're going to cover your custodial fee up to $500 for 2 years. And if you are a service member, either in the military, any branch, police department, fire department, you will qualify for a 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful. Folks, as we're getting closer to the 250th anniversary, by the way, I'm sure you heard about President Trump being on the $250 bill. Did you hear about that, Jack?
I was there with the Treasury Secretary yesterday as he was talking about it.
I mean, how cool will it be that our generation, we can tell that to our kids? Again, visit protectwithposo.com or call us at 844-790-9191.
Alex Abkarian, this guy is explaining to us how we can protect our family's future and our own family's wealth. Check him out, protectwithposo.com. Right back.
Where's Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. You know, we have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys who should be getting Pulitzers.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, we're here back live, Real America's Voice, Human Events Daily. Real quick, folks, we got to talk about this fluoride situation. The government has been medicating your water with it for over 80 years, and not because you asked for it, not because you voted for it, because they decided you needed it. Well, that's not a decision I want someone else making for the Poso family, which is why I filter every drop of water in my home with Cove Pure. Over 209 million Americans are on fluoridated water right now. And here's what the science actually shows. In September 2024, a federal judge ruled that adding fluoride to water poses, and I'm quoting the court directly, an unreasonable risk to neurological health. Not a fringe study, a federal court ordering the EPA to act. Then in January 2025, a study published by JAMA Pediatrics, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, confirmed a link between fluoride exposure and children's IQ scores. The higher exposure, the lower the IQ. I'm sure some states are moving on this. Utah and Florida have banned it, but that process takes years. Your kids, your family, they're drinking this water today. You need something that works now, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. Its Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, fluoride, PFAS, lead, pharmaceuticals, heavy metals. Anything that isn't water gets filtered out. So don't wait for the government to catch up. Go to get yourself a Cove Pure. If you use my link, covepure.com/POSO, you get $250 off. That's COVEPURE.com/POSO and covepure.com/POSO. Remember, $250 off. Really excited to have on once again my good friend Amanda Grace. She's out with a new book for us all about potential predictions, not only for right now, but for 2028. The new book is Brace for Impact. Amanda joins us now. Amanda, how are you?
Hello, Jack. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm always happy to come on with you, and I always appreciated you having us on and having us at the tour and doing such a great such a great welcome to us back when we did our books on communism, our book on the president's potential assassination way back when. And so tell us a little bit about the new book, because you're really talking about how 2028 could be a global tipping point as to whether or not we're headed for a revival. And that's what so many people are hoping, like personally myself and so many others, in the wake of what happened to my friend Charlie. We thought that we were headed for a revival, that we were seeing a revival, but you're saying that you see the forces of darkness responding to that.
Yes, so actually to have revival, you have to have renewal. This is why renewing the covenant of this nation was such an important event for this nation, because you have to renew to revive. So we have now set the tone in the nation with the renewing of the covenant that just happened on May 17th. So let's talk about the 2028 for a second, the entire year. So 2028 is potentially on a 20-year cycle right now. What do I mean by that? Let's go back to 2008 to understand what's coming for 2028. 2008 was a Shemitah year. What is a Shemitah year? It happens every 7 years on the Jewish calendar. It takes 7 Shemitahs to make a Jubilee, which is 50 years. Major global events are known to happen on Shemitah years. 9/11. The global banking crisis of 2008, Shemitah year. World War II, Shemitah year. Multiple stock market crashes, Shemitah year. So we have an election year, just like it was in 2008 and 2028, colliding and converging with a Shemitah year. And then what happened also, you had the rise of what I call the Ishmaelite candidate, Barack Obama. So we're watching actually the components here come into play to potentially watch an attempted remake of 2008 in 2028.
And now this is very, very interesting, because of course we saw so much happening in 2024. We're seeing things go on right now, of course, with Iran. President Trump is confronting them, and potentially we have peace on the table right now. But when we're looking at this brace for impact, what do you tell in the book? What can people do for themselves with their own faith? What can they do to prepare themselves, prepare their families?
Okay, so we are at a precipice for the church where we have gone to a heightened level of sophisticated warfare. Okay, so the enemy has taken the warfare to another level. How do we respond? Well, first of all, we have to wake up and realize there is a spiritual war and a battle over the covenant of this nation. That's why the renewal was so important. 1. 2, we need to understand that the Bible is not a book of the ancient that was left in the ancient. It's a book that is living, active, current for every generation. It is a book that was written in the ancient. Over 1,500 years it was written, 40 different authors with a common theme, and it was written that contains what we are watching unfold now and what is to come. We have to understand that this is a manual to us. The Word of God, I believe, is coded with what we are watching unfold before our very eyes. And it's time that the church actually gets into it deeper, realizes it is a weapon, realizes it is living and active, and that we actually have to take the authority now. We're the ecclesia as the church. We're supposed to be the ruling body. We're supposed to be raising a standard. God is attempting to raise a standard in this nation, and the church has to answer that call.
This is so amazing. What you're putting into words, the way I try to explain this, especially when I talk to young audiences, if I'm doing Turning Point or something, I say, guys, it's not good enough to be Christian in private anymore and to keep our belief hidden behind closed doors. That's great. You go there, you're on Sunday, maybe Saturday night. We're a Saturday night family, actually, in the Poso household. Just works out better for us. But it's not good enough to just do it once a week and then go back. You have to be doing it actively. You have to be taking Christian stances and Christian stands in public, because the enemy is fighting us on all fronts there.
I agree. And this is how you contend. It's time for the church to actually contend for the faith. And I'm going to be very honest. In 2017, the church got very complacent after President Trump was elected the first time. And we all saw what happened in 2020, right? In 2019, a man-made plague hit the earth. It's time for the church to get ahead of these things. If we're willing to have eyes to see and ears to hear what the Holy Spirit has to say, we are willing to hear the voice of our Father warning us, positioning us, speaking to us, and giving us the instruction we need. And you're right, Jack. We have to be, in this time, it is time to be open, to be brazen, to speak the unadulterated truth of God's word, to speak with the truth that has a conviction to it that actually pierces through the lies. The enemy is attempting right now to flood the market with noise. He is attempting to flood the market with confusion. We are the standard. We are the voices that are supposed to be piercing through all of that to reach the generations.
It's so true when you point it out that way, because that's what the enemy does. It's deceit, it's deceptiveness, it is the twisting of words, the twisting of truths, the mixing of lies with half-truths. But if you're someone who's attuned to the Word of God, if you're someone who's attuned to Christ Jesus' teachings, it can't get you. It actually can't prevent you. And by the way, that makes them hate you even more because they know they can't get you.
Yes, because you become a threat. You see, what the enemy doesn't waste time on what's not a threat to him. You want to be a threat to him. You want to be growing deeper in your faith so you can go higher with the Lord. You want to be going from glory to glory. You want to be, we're supposed to be soldiers in the army of the living God. We are fighting an active spiritual war. If you become a child of Almighty God, you're automatically at war with the kingdom of darkness. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And this has gone to a sophisticated level because 2028 is at stake, because the covenant of this nation was just renewed, because the enemy wants to war on grounds of covenant. We have to understand this. If we look at the major battles in the Word of God, the war was on the grounds of covenant. David versus Goliath, that was a covenant battle that took place. And we as the church have to understand that the power that raised Christ from the dead dwells within us. This is not just rhetoric. This is an actual power that we need to start operating in the way God has intended it, in order to make sure that the enemy does not snare this nation for 2028. If we get ahead of it as the church, his plans are going to crash and burn.
It's so key. And you can't fall asleep. You cannot become asleep. You cannot become distracted. You need to focus. We've got about a minute left. Tell everybody again about your new book, where they can go and get it and get more information.
So the book is called Brace for Impact. It goes all the way up to 2028. I talk about events coming all the way up to 2028. You can go to arcofgrace.org on the front page. You can click on Brace for Impact. It's also on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and everywhere books are sold.
This is phenomenal. So, folks, if you want to get into this, if you want to read more about the spiritual war that we are in every day, that we have taken casualties in, that we have taken losses in, but that we've also taken victories in and will achieve the greatest victory with Jesus Christ our Lord. Check it out. Amanda Grace, thank you so much for joining us here, Human Events Daily. Right back, final session on Friday, where you are the guest. Stay tuned.
Jack Posobiec Appreciation Hour. I can say confidently, I think Josh Shapiro would be the vice presidential nominee if it wasn't for Jack Posobiec. And that is, I'm being honest.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec here, back live, Real America's Voice. Ladies and gentlemen, America is hitting its 250th year this year, and we're fighting for its soul right now. Culture, economy, who gets your dollar? That's the battle. Most wireless companies don't care what you stand for. They just want your cash. Patriot Mobile is different. For more than 12 years, they've stood with Americans like us, backing the Christian conservative movement when everyone else stayed silent or worse. And here's the deal. You don't have to give up quality or service when you switch to Patriot Mobile. They deliver premium priority access on all 3 major U.S. networks, so you get the same coverage or better than you have today. You think switching is a hassle? It's not. We are talking about keeping your phone, your number, upgrading, Their 100% U.S.-based customer support team can activate you in minutes at Patriot Mobile. So if you're still paying off a device, Patriot Mobile will even offer a contract buyout. 2026, the big 26, is a defining year. We're in a fight for America's soul. Work together to save our country. PatriotMobile.com/POSO or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code POSO for a free month of service. PatriotMobile.com/POSO. All right, folks, I told you that this segment is going to be your segment. You are the guest on Fridays. I want to play a clip really quickly out of Newark, New Jersey last night.
I'll kill your whole family. Your whole family's dead. Come on. Your children, your wife, all dead. Put your, my boy. I have your face, mother. You're dead. Dead. Boys to back up and put your stick down because I'm about that life. You say come on? You said come on, right? Yeah, small now. Put your stick down. Tell your boys to back up. I'm about that life, my boy.
All right, folks. So that was Antifa up there in Newark. A question of the day is all about them. What should be done about the Antifa networks targeting ICE? Email us 1776@humanevents.com. I'll go to the comment section in a minute, but first, we're going to start with emails. Got this one in from Eric. Hello. Antifa has been classified by the Trump administration as a domestic terrorist organization, foreign as well. However, as far as we know, they don't have a typical command structure such as ICE or Hamas. What they do have are planners and money for events. Offenders that participate in inciting videos should be prosecuted on a regular basis. This sends a message that members of this group will be absolutely held accountable wherever they are. Equipment, materials, supplies, bail money come from elsewhere. Every time one of those thugs posts bail, the source of the money needs to be investigated and tracked. Find where the money comes from. They have a structure of a type of network or structure for communication. It needs to be infiltrated and discovered by a team of professional agents that should be undercover. We can infiltrate terrorist organizations in other countries, so we should be able to do it easily at home. If it isn't addressed soon, it will only grow, and their movement will become even more radical. Eric, I couldn't agree more. This one in from Rick: arrest, prosecute, and jail. This after they get their butts kicked. Michael: same thing that should have been done from the start, a national federal task force that tracks them across every inch of this country. We know they're going to scream. We know the press is going to cover for them. We can't give a crap. We have to be serious about it from the day that Trump took office, and Charlie might still be here. We might not be able to prosecute the foot soldiers in the strongholds right now. Well, you can federally, but we should also be declaring those cities under insurrection. People are dying. We can go start foreign wars, but we can't do anything here. You couldn't make it up if you wanted to. This one here on Land and Home, it says, please pass this on to President Trump. We want to keep the campaign promises. We want to put Americans first. Couldn't agree more with that. This one in from a female patriot: rout them out, destroy them, not through the justice system because of the lib judges. No, Antifa members are committing treason against our nation, and we all know the truth about it. Well, and it's look, it's got to be done legally. That's for sure from my perspective. But yes, it needs to be done. Confront them with minimum equal force, also force to exceed. That's reasonable and legal. They are not afraid. That's Mark. This one from Heather: track them down and prosecute them. Full treatment under the law. This one comes in from Martin. The solution is water cannons. Yes, I couldn't agree more with that. All right, I promised I would go to the Rumble chat. I'm in the Rumble chat. Let's got Randy808. He says, put them to sleep. Pixie Cox says, arrest the freaks. It's time. It's law and order. M. Bouvier, I think it's Bouvier, mostly peaceful. Grimar714, how do you threaten law enforcement and not get arrested? What a great point. What a great point. I couldn't agree more. Scrolling back, just seeing a lot of people talking about Amanda Grace. Saw a lot of people talking about that. Let's see. TR Sable is hanging out. Pixie Cox again. Send him to Gitmo. Well, look, I spent time at Guantanamo Bay. I was more than happy to go do so. I'd be more than happy to lead the new flights down to Guantanamo Bay yet again. It's really simple. And in fact, you know, I had a nice time when I was there. I mean, it was work, to be sure. It was work. But you know what? I'd go back in a heartbeat. Let's see. Tim Peck. What happened to all the mouthy Democrat trolls? I'm on this other one. We're on the Human Events Daily Chat here. Let's see. Windrunners checking in. Simpal X, Georgia, Panther City, Texas originally. G Wi-Fi 2. The Dow Jones average broke through 51,000 today, and oil is down to $87. Not bad. Not bad at all. Panikins, Hearst, worst hit. Panikins, worst hit. So we're seeing a lot come in here. Someone saying they want Tom Homan to get in. They feel like Tom Homan's been a little quiet. That's just a farmer. We're seeing Dove. A lot of people saying, yeah, Gitmo. A lot of people coming in on Gitmo. They love the Gitmo. Look. I'll say it again. You know, I had a wonderful time at Guantanamo Bay. I'd be more than happy to go down. The special envoy to Guantanamo Bay, Jack Posobiec. Why not? Special envoy to Guantanamo Bay. I do want to get on the Getter chat. Let's pop up on the Getter chat. Trisha 9083. Why are sanctuary cities and states even legal? That's a great point. They shouldn't be. You should not be able in the United States of America to have the ability to declare yourself immune from federal law. It doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to the American people. You don't get to pick and choose which laws you can follow. It's really simple. It's as simple as that. And when you break the law, you go to jail. Wow, what a concept. So when you cross state lines for the purposes of a riot, when you organize in your little indivisible chat groups and your ICE Watch groups and all the other crap that you're doing, guess what? We can infiltrate those. We can go into those directly, whether it's on Signal, whether it's on Facebook, whatever the rest is. We can participate in the calls. And I know about all your little indivisible conference calls and all the rest of it that you're having over the Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, I know about those. You think I don't have sources in the indivisible conference calls? You think I don't have people already in the Signal chats of ICE Watch all over the place, start in Minneapolis? You think Kevin Posobiec, my brother, isn't up in all those chats? Come on. Seriously? Do you know how easy it is to get a burner phone in the Big 2-6? Seriously? So we can get the info. The question is, are you going to be able to do something about it? We got Snotter here, who says, totally agree. We have no toleration for this anti-American anarchists. Couldn't agree more. And I understand that there's going to be a working group on international Antifa coming up soon. And that's really important because there are Antifa networks that travel freely between the United States and Europe all the time. There are Antifa in Europe anarchists who conduct attacks in the United States. How do I know this? I can tell you directly. So you guys might remember that my parents were swatted a couple years ago on Christmas. And that person ended up being tracked down. They were an Antifa anarchist out of Romania, and they just got sentenced to 4 years in federal prison in Washington, D.C. So if you want to be the next one to go to prison, then go ahead and mess with us. Go ahead and mess with us. And by the way, their travel, so you should be on the do not fly list. Your passport should be revoked. You shouldn't be able to travel to Europe. The Europeans shouldn't be able to travel to America. There are all these things we can do. We need to start putting them in place now. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission. Leah Shore.